Hey there, welcome to the One Brain Four Wheels channel. It's the Garrett here like always, and in today's video we're going to be discussing the 2019 California exhaust laws and try to separate the fact from the fiction. So if you're watching this video, then you've probably seen a whole bunch of other videos on YouTube and different car sites, all these with these really attention-grabbing headlines. $1,000 fines for exhausts, blah, 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 California, horrible. And while parts of those stories are true, I really wanted to make this video, especially now that everything's died down a little bit and people are being a little less dramatic, really to kind of express some of the things that I've been able to learn just by doing a little research online, and really to assuage everyone's concerns, because it's not as big of a deal as you might think. Initially, when I saw this headline, I didn't even know this was coming out, and then a couple days after the new year, I started seeing about $1,000 exhaust fines and people with, no mufflers, for example, like I have in my Corvette and my Suburban. People were, doing that on all sorts of cars and talking about how expensive, they're getting pulled over, all these big raids on people doing street racing and stuff like that, which I'll get into that being an issue as well with this. But yeah, so initially when I saw the headlines, I too was kind of freaking out, like, oh shit, over the last couple of years, I've modified my exhausts, totally being CARB compliant, which is the California Air Resources Board. So I've been compliant as far as my emissions, standards, equipment. I didn't want to mess with my catalytic converters or headers or anything like that because I wanted to be legal in California. But I was messing around with the rest of my exhaust downstream because that wasn't an issue in my head before anyways. And then kind of with all this stuff coming, I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna get a big fine, right? Not true. So one thing I want to clear up right off the bat is, from my understanding anyways, the 2019 law has changed nothing about the actual laws regarding what you can do with your exhaust. It's only changed what the officer writes on your ticket and how you proceed after you get your ticket and how much you're going to pay. But up to this point, 95 decibels, that's what the law is right now, and that's what it's been as far as how loud your exhaust can be. And also, you're not really supposed to be taking off your mufflers and other sound deadening devices on your car as it comes from the factory. To sum it up really briefly, pretty much the only thing that's actually changed here in 2019 is that if you get pulled over for a modified exhaust that's too loud, rather than the ticket being fixable as it was in the past, now it is no longer fixable or correctable. What that means is, in the past, here in California, I'm sure this is like this in other states too, maybe not for exhaust, but for other things, if you get a fix-it ticket, if you go ahead and get it fixed and then have it signed off by an officer, your fee goes from whatever it would have been for the offense down to $25. That's your fix-it ticket fee. At this point in California, since it's no longer correctable, you automatically need to go to a referee station where they will look over your entire car. So not only your violation or what was, incorrect on your vehicle, but they're going to assess everything. And they're going to look it over. And then if you fix it, your fee is going to be about $200 at this point. However, what you're hearing, the $1,000 fine, that's if you don't go to the referee station. So if you get pulled over, you get that ticket, which is not correctable now, you're automatically going to be getting a real fine. That's really the big difference. But if you don't go and have it, you can't have it signed off by a cop now, you got to go to the referee station. That's the big difference. If you don't do that, you want to just take the fine, that is where you get into issues, and that's where the $1,000 fine comes into play. It's actually more than $1,000. I think it's closer to $1,200 with all the different fees and stuff like that. But yeah, I just found it funny seeing all these headlines because I was freaked out, like I said, for a minute. And then I started reading things, and thankfully a lot of people, you have to kind of sort through all the fiction, but you'll find fact out there on the internet. And then I was really, my fears were pretty assuaged very quickly, because that's when I kind of realized that, no, it's not $1,000. It's a $1,000 fine if you don't, follow, if you get pulled over, yeah, that sucks, but you need to follow the process. You just have to, if you live here, that's what you got to do. You can't just disregard your ticket and say, fuck it, I'm not going to go ahead and deal with this, because then you're going to get a $1,000 fee. And I'm sure they'll probably keep you from being able to register your car. I've never actually had to go to a referee station, which, by the way, I've heard is quite a pain because you need to schedule an appointment. That's going to take time out of your day. I'm quite sure they don't have weekend appointments. You'll be missing some work, I'm sure. And yeah, definitely, it's like going to the DMV for something. It's a total waste of your time and a pain in the butt. But it's just something you need to do if you get pulled over. So now if you have a modified exhaust, you really have to understand that that's a potential thing that you're going to encounter, and if it happens, you just got to deal with it. But yeah, really why I wanted to make this video was to let people know that the $1,000 fine, that's not going to happen to you if you just follow the steps when you get your ticket. Definitely, yeah, I think people do that as like their headline because they want attention and they want to get some views and stuff. And you know, just like everything in the news, they always report the worst case scenario because that's what people want to watch, right? It gets people's attention. But really, realistically, it should be closer to about $200. You'll need to go ahead and make your exhaust back to stock, or at least passable. I think if you go to referee station, it's probably going to be stock, which will be happening if you get pulled over for a modified exhaust. You'll be going to a referee. So go ahead and put it back to stock. They'll look it over. It should be correct at this point. They'll sign off. You'll pay $200. And then what you do after that is up to you. So, you know, if you want to, you know, play it safe and just leave it like that, or maybe do a modification that would be still within California compliance, or if you want to live on the wild side a little dangerously, you can try reverting it back to how you had it modified, and then just being a little quieter around cops if you can. So now you might be wondering, what all of a sudden has precipitated this out where California wants to be a jerk to car owners and just the car culture in general? Because here in California, that's very big. And I have to say, actually, the drafters of AB 1324, AB 1824, excuse me, Assembly Bill 1824 here in California, they're actually quite clever, because what I've read online is pretty much just really trying to target people that do street racing and sideshows. And what I surmise their thinking was that a lot of people that participate in these types of illegal activities, they have really loud exhausts because they've modified their cars extensively. And I highly doubt they care about the 95 decibel limit, which is in effect now and has been for quite a long time. And what this allows law enforcement to do is pretty much before, if they had pulled people over leaving an event like that, but maybe they didn't actually witness them participating in street racing, they're going to get back at them now, essentially, is what this kind of boils down to, I think, because they can at that point pull them over for a loud exhaust, maybe nothing to do with street racing, but if they have kind of this, you know, thought that maybe they've been participating in street racing, or they're in kind of that scene, or they just look like they're kind of up to really no good, they are legally pulling them over for being too loud. I guess the more I kind of think about it, they could be like profiling, essentially, cars that have a loud exhaust, and kind of surmising that if they have a loud exhaust, they could very well have probably a lot of other things modified to their vehicles. And if they have a lot of modified things in their vehicles and they're kind of driving like an asshole on the street, which has caught my attention, that's how I heard them, because they're revving really loud, probably doing something, you know, other illegal activities on the road. That's probably what I'm thinking their like thought process might be, the officers. They're going to go ahead and pull them over. And now, instead of just giving them that modified exhaust ticket and $200, they fix it, get signed off, they're on their way, now I'm sending them to the ref. That ref is going to find all the stuff they've done to their vehicle. You know, they may not be running catalytic converters. There could be so many modifications that are illegal in California, and I'm not going to get into that, whether or not I think that's right or wrong. I think up to some point, I think you should be able to modify your vehicle. And, you know, I think our laws are really, really stringent on what you can do. But I also understand there are pros for having, you know, these regulations in place, because we, you know, try to control our quality of air, which is a really big deal here in California, because we had really decades before our air quality was just horrible, before I was born. And thankfully it's gotten much better as we've progressed. So there are good reasons why we have these laws, but the loudness of your exhaust, that has nothing to do with that. I think just the more I think about this, I'm kind of pondering this as I'm making this video, I just feel like at some point, like, where do the laws start encroaching too much on what you should be able to do to your own property versus how you affect others? And yeah, I know that some of these people's exhaust can be super obnoxious and super annoying, but there's something to say about intent. And, you know, what's the intent of this law? Obviously, you know, it can be to keep people from having these really loud, obnoxious exhausts. But is there other underlying intent about, you know, trying to kind of rein in some other activities that people are doing, not necessarily associated with exhaust, but are they kind of thinking it's going to go ahead and entrap some of those people and get them off the street or their vehicles off the street. But in doing so, are you taking away rights from other people? And once again, I don't want to really get into that because, you know, do you really have the right to have a loud exhaust? There's arguments for that on both sides. And that's like a totally different topic. Basically, I think that a lot of people that just wanted to have a fun modified exhaust are going to be getting these non-fixable tickets. And while it won't be $1,000, it's still going to be a larger ticket, and they're going to have to return their cars back to stock, and they're not going to be able to personalize it how they had hoped. And I think that for a lot of people that have a modified exhaust, they're just like me. They're just regular people. They just want to have a cool car. They're not doing anything bad. It's just a loud exhaust. And that kind of brings me into my last point, which is I have modified exhaust in my vehicles. Will I be fixing it? And no, at this point, I'm not going to. In my mind, I'm not an asshole, right? Which means most of the time when I'm driving on the roads, I'm not like making it so that my exhaust is super loud. Obviously, it's not like I have a dial or a switch where I can just turn them off or on. I don't have mufflers all the time. But what I'm saying is that when I'm driving and there's like people like, you know, let's say I'm at a stoplight or something, and there's people on the street, I'm not like this kind of like jerk that likes to show off and like, vroom, vroom, vroom. You know, I do it for the videos and stuff. That's just because I'm trying to show off what I've just done. But honestly, I really just like, you know, when I downshift, I like to hear the burble, burble, burble in the Corvette. And in the Suburban, you know, when I'm just like kind of driving up like the mountain and stuff, it just sounds cool to me. And just driving around town, just that constant, like, more grumbly sound is cool, but I don't think I'm really obnoxious as far as, like, always trying to floor it all the time just to have this super, really loud exhaust, you know, and I think, for the most part, you know, people like me, you know, if you just drive like normal with your modified exhaust, but you're not being a jerk, I think the police, unless you're in a really strict area, are just going to let you be. But if you're the guy driving the Mustang, and you're just like flooring it, you know, all the time, just breaking the law, you know, you're going way too fast, you're already drawing attention to yourself, maybe you're doing, you know, some street racing or whatever, then they're going to get you on the exhaust, which, if you're doing illegal things already, you probably don't want a loud exhaust, or you shouldn't, maybe I should say, you'd be wise not to have one, because it's going to draw attention to you breaking other laws. Because I know that, like, when I'm driving my cars with a louder exhaust, I tend to be on better behavior, because I know that that's already drawing attention to me, right? So yeah, in a nutshell, yes, I do think the new law is kind of stupid and bullshit. But I think it's actually really not targeting loud exhausts, but rather people kind of doing other modifications to their vehicle and maybe participating in other illegal activities. And this is just a good way to rein them in and really give police and law enforcement a good reason to go ahead and catch them doing other things illegally, like other illegal modifications and so on. So yeah, I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. There's a little thumbs up button down here. Go ahead and click that. I would really appreciate it. I really did try my best to look into as much information as possible before making this video, because, you know, just like most people, I saw all these videos, all these posts online, $1,000 fine modification, California, exhaust. And, you know, that is a little worrying, and I don't want people to worry for nothing. I guess really, just don't be obnoxious. If you're obnoxious, you're gonna get caught, probably. So that's all I have to say about this. And until next time, guys, I hope you all have a fantastic day. Please stay safe. Don't get caught if you have a modified exhaust and maybe other things. Then just kind of ease up, you know, be vigilant about police, and just don't drive like an asshole, and I think you'll be okay. See you guys next time.